Muhammad Iqbal Lahori was born on November 9, 1877 in Sialkot, Punjab, Pakistan. He studied at the Umar Shah School in the Shwala neighborhood of Sialkot and later attended the Madrasa of Abu Abdullah Maulana Ghulam Hassan in 1882. He passed away on January 18, 1925 in the alley of Mir Hassan. He studied the Qur'an in Urdu, Persian, and Arabic at this madrasa. In 1882, the poetry of Syed Mir Hassan sparked a flame of inspiration in Iqbal. His journey continued at the Scotch Mission School in Sialkot in 1883, where he completed his primary education. The structured education system, with 2 years for the first level and 3 years for the second, provided a solid academic base. In 1891, he passed the 8th grade exams, marking the beginning of his literary career. In 1895, he completed his 12th grade with distinction and moved from Sialkot to Lahore to continue his education. In September, he was accepted to the Government College in Lahore. In 1896, he established the Kashmir Muslims Association of India. The first meeting of this association was held in February, where Iqbal composed a 25-line poem titled Welfare of the Nation, which was later published under the revised title Progress and Education in the Kashmiri Journal in Lahore in March 1909. In 1897, Iqbal's academic brilliance shone as he completed his bachelor's degree with honors and was accepted into the master's program. The turning point came in February 1898 when Thomas Arnold, who lived from 1864 to 1930, arrived in Lahore and became a philosophy professor at Government College. This marked the start of Iqbal's association with Arnold, a relationship that would greatly influence him. In 1899, Iqbal's academic journey reached a pinnacle as he completed his master's degree with distinction, emerging as the only student in the college to pass the philosophy program successfully, earning him a prize. Iqbal was appointed as an Arabic assistant at the Oriental College, where he helped supervise the publication of Arabic textbooks and translated books from Arabic and English into Urdu. He also took part in teaching. In 1900, his poem The Orphan's Cry was read at the 15th annual session of the Islamic Association and was so well received that it was repeated the next day, raising 300 rupees in donations for the association. After completing his studies at Government College, he rented a house in Badi Gate, Lahore, and continued to focus on his scholarly work. In September 1901, he wrote an article on the book The Theory of Absolute Unity by Abdul Karim al-Jili, published in the Indian Antiquary. In January 1902, he took a leave of absence from the Oriental College and joined Government College as an assistant professor of English. In 1903, Iqbal completed his law diploma and obtained a legal degree in January. He traveled to Europe in September 1905 for further studies, initially visiting Delhi and Cambridge. While at Cambridge, he became involved in philosophical debates and was accepted into the University of Munich in 1907 for his doctoral studies. His doctoral dissertation on metaphysics in Iran was published in 1908. Iqbal's poetry and intellectual contributions to philosophy and political thought were instrumental in shaping the ideological foundations of modern-day Pakistan. His ideas on selfhood, the development of Islamic culture, and the relationship between East and West left an indelible mark on the intellectual landscape of South Asia. In 1930, his daughter, Manisha Banu, was born. The third edition of Bang-e-Dra, The Call of the Marching Bell, included Iqbal's speeches, which later became famous as lectures at Madrasa. These powerful speeches, which had already been published in newspapers across India, were highly requested by many people to be compiled into a single volume. Responding to the request of Syed Jamal Muhammad, Iqbal edited them, and after returning to Lahore, 6 lectures were published in a book titled Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam in Lahore. Later, this book was also printed in London. In 1933, Iqbal gave a speech at the Round Table Conference, which was later included in this book, making the 7 lectures famous under Lectures at Madrasa. On June 10th, Thomas Arnold passed away. On August 17th, Iqbal's father, Sheikh Muhammad, passed away. On December 29th, Iqbal chaired the annual session of the All India Muslim League. This was a significant event as it marked Iqbal's increasing involvement in political affairs. In fact, after Hafez, it is not easy to find a poet who comes close to the level of Iqbal. His poetry represents a continuation of the classical Persian tradition and an evolution incorporating modern, philosophical, and intellectual themes. For instance, in his poem Shikwa, Iqbal criticizes the state of the Muslim world, a departure from the traditional themes of Persian poetry. Iqbal's poetry is distinguished by integrating the old poetic form with new subjects, marking a profound shift in Persian poetry's thematic focus. Iqbal breathed new life into the traditional Persian ghazal, a form typically associated with love, by incorporating political, philosophical, and spiritual elements. Unlike many of his predecessors, his ghazals are not merely expressions of personal longing or love, but are deeply rooted in social, political, and intellectual concerns. For instance, in his poem Shikwa, Iqbal addresses the decline of the Muslim world and the need for societal change. His poetry, therefore, acts as a vehicle for expressing a dynamic worldview, urging individuals to strive for self-realization, social justice, and spiritual growth. Iqbal's influence on Persian and Urdu poetry can be considered revolutionary. He transformed the ghazal from a medium of personal and sometimes romantic expression into a platform for advocating societal transformation, intellectual awakening, and spiritual revival. His work not only laid the groundwork for a modern interpretation of classical Persian poetry, but also redefined it, where the timeless form was given new life, through the infusion of contemporary thought and global awareness. Iqbal's philosophical poetry aligns him with other great intellectuals who have used poetry to foster social and philosophical change. His works reflect a commitment to selfhood and individual empowerment, emphasizing the importance of realizing one's true potential and the collective responsibility toward creating a just and spiritually enriched society. Throughout his life, Iqbal remained steadfast in his belief in the transformative power of poetry and his dedication to his philosophical principles. His legacy continues to reverberate in the cultural and intellectual realms of the Muslim world, inspiring thinkers, poets, and activists to this day. Iqbal's contributions to literature, philosophy, and political thought have firmly established him as one of the most influential figures in the intellectual history of the modern Muslim world. The conversation in Persian is not limited, even though his poetry possesses beauty, stability, and his works are treasures of Persian literature. These qualities result from his genius and inherent talent. Therefore, one might imagine that if he had been born and raised in Shiraz, he could have become the tongue of the unseen in the final era. According to Lotfali Suratkar, some of Iqbal's ghazals are such that the reader feels they are standing alongside Hafez's platform. Hossein Khatibi also called him the Hafez of the atomic age. This timeless relevance of Iqbal's poetry underscores its enduring significance. Other prominent literary critics have pointed out that what makes his poetry stand out is the novel and progressive ideas expressed within it. These ideas, or their parallels, can also be traced in the poetry of modern poets of the time, which would require a separate study to elaborate on. For example, the theme of the following verse reminds one of an idea presented in O People of the World by Nima. O you who sit peacefully by the shore, rise, for the whirlpool and whale still await you. In his political and social poetry, Akhavan has created artistic symbols, such as the garden, a metaphor for all of Iran. Therefore, the country's people are also considered trees and saplings of this garden, enduring a harsh winter as they face difficult circumstances. Similarly, Iqbal compares the disordered world of Islam to a garden, with Muslims likened to the birds of this garden, who have forgotten their true nature and instead of taking action or showing initiative, lament without cause about the advanced world. In the same vein, Iqbal, like Akhavan, sees the backwardness of the people around him due to their failure to understand the realities and needs of the times. The leader of the caravan, as he puts it, fails to recognize this. Comparing the metaphor of the garden used by Iqbal with Hafez, it becomes clear that the notion of a garden or orchard filled with hope and despair is also rooted in Hafez's work. In one of his ghazals, Hafez says, "The ruler's conversations are darkness in the night of Yalda. Light will only appear when the sun rises. The lover will live on, wishing that the garden will flourish and the flowers bloom again." A similar sentiment is reflected in Iqbal's poetry, where the conditions of the world, particularly the Islamic world, are seen in a metaphorical state of decay, with a desperate longing for revitalization, akin to what Akavan, Iqbal, and other poets of the time expressed. For more on similar ideas, one could look into various works of literary critics and poets, which further illustrate the influence of Persian classical poets on the work of modern figures such as Iqbal, Akavan, and Shamlu. Iqbal arrived at Port Said, Egypt, disembarked from the ship, and set foot in the city. In a letter to his friend in November 1905, he writes about his arrival. "We reached Port Said at 3 a.m. I was asleep when an Egyptian doctor named Suleiman woke me up. I woke up and sat next to him. In front of me, I saw a few young Egyptians, all of whom were members of the Muslim Youth Association. I was very happy about this encounter. Mr. Lotfi Bek, one of the most famous lawyers in Cairo, sent a message via Suleiman inviting us to visit Cairo. Upon his arrival in Cairo, Iqbal was immediately drawn to the esteemed Al-Azhar University and its erudite scholars. He quickly grasped the university's eminent status in the study of Arabic language, literature, and Islamic sciences. His understanding of why many prominent figures from his homeland, India, journeyed to Egypt to study these disciplines at Al-Azhar was profound. In a letter to his friend Muhammad Akbar in 1920, Iqbal expressed his belief that learning Arabic in Egypt was superior to doing so in Lebanon. In another letter to Hafiz Muhammad Fazlur Rahman Ansari, he advised, "Your move to Europe will not benefit you. To truly understand Arabic and Islamic sciences, you should head to Al-Azhar." Iqbal was a voracious reader, constantly keeping abreast of new reports and discussions about religious and Islamic studies. In a letter to the renowned Indian scholar Syed Suleiman Nadwi in 1926, he wrote, "Indeed, we are in dire need of codifying Islamic law. A booklet on this has recently been published in Egypt." Iqbal's letters are a treasure trove of valuable insights that not only narrate his life story, but also showcase his active thinking and deep concerns about the state of Islamic studies. In his poem Bangedra, The Call of the Marching Bell, published in Lahore in 1924, Iqbal addresses nationalism and ethnic identity, which were gaining popularity among the politicians and leaders of Egypt at the time. In Lahore, he welcomed Egyptians visiting the city and engaged in significant discussions about the political, social, and cultural conditions of Muslim countries and the future leadership of the Muslim world after the fall of colonialism. In 1927, Iqbal visited Fahmi el-Masri, editor of the Al-Fuqaha newspaper in Cairo. After lengthy discussions about the Muslim world, Iqbal asked who would lead the Muslim nations in the present era. Fahmi responded, "Without a doubt, the youth of Egypt will take on this role, for the majority of Egyptians are hardworking and intelligent, and with independence, they will lead the way." In 1929, Iqbal was filled with anticipation as he prepared to embark on a journey to 3 major Muslim countries, Egypt, Turkey, and Iran. His intention was to visit these countries to gain a deeper understanding of their people's conditions and to promote Islamic teachings. However, due to financial constraints, the trip was postponed. Although he never realized his dream of visiting Iran, Iqbal did manage to travel to Egypt in December 1931, spending 5 days in Alexandria and Cairo. During his visit, Iqbal met with numerous scholars, including Sheikh Muhammad al-Ahmadi, the president of Al-Azhar University, and various other intellectuals. He also delivered a famous lecture about philosophy and the concept of khudi, selfhood, which profoundly impacted his listeners. Iqbal's journey to Egypt was a personal experience and a significant moment in the intellectual and cultural exchanges between the Muslim world and the broader global community.
Exploring Iqbal's core philosophical domain. Iqbal is undeniably one of the founders of Pakistan, as he was the first to propose the idea of an independent Islamic state in the Indian subcontinent, alongside visionaries such as Maulana Muhammad Ali and Muhammad Ali Jinnah. His intellectual and political struggle against colonialism was grounded in a philosophy centered on monotheism and the prophetic mission of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Iqbal demonstrated profound engagement with Western thinkers like Kant and Hegel in philosophy. His doctoral thesis, The Development of Metaphysics in Persia, was completed at Munich University in 1899 and later published as The History of Philosophy in Persia. His verses are a testament to his deep emotional connection with Persian culture and poetry, expressing profound affection for Iran and its people. For instance, like a burning tulip, I walk your streets, O youth of Persia, my soul and yours entwined. I explored the depths of life to uncover your hidden thoughts. His visionary spirit led his gaze to ascend past the constellations, designing sanctuaries within the uncharted realms of his mind. Iqbal's contributions to various fields. In the field of economics, Iqbal's book, Ilm-ul-Iqtisad, published in 1903, was the first to discuss economic principles in Urdu, making the subject more accessible to a wider audience. In religious psychology, Iqbal reflected on thinkers like Ibn Sina, Al-Farabi, and Khwaja Muhammad Parsa. His work in Islamic revival, the reconstruction of religious thought in Islam, remains a cornerstone of modern Islamic philosophy. In mysticism, inspired by Ibn Arabi, Rumi, and Shah Waliullah, Iqbal's mysticism was deeply rooted in Islamic tradition. His devotion to Rumi is notable. I gave the call to prayer like Rumi in the sanctuary. From him, I learned the secrets of the soul. In Western philosophy, familiar with Nietzsche, Bergson, Kant, and Hegel, Iqbal merged Eastern and Western thought into a unique intellectual framework. Iqbal's legacy. His poetic collections, Asrar-i Khudi, Rumuz-i Bekhudi, Payam-i Mashriq, Bangidra, Javidnama, Pasche Bayad Kard, and Zabar-i Ajam, demonstrate his literary prowess. His works remain an enduring source of inspiration for philosophical inquiry and spiritual awakening. Historical context. A significant socio-political backdrop of Iqbal's era was the clash between tradition and modernity. Like his contemporary, Jamal al-Din al-Afghani, Iqbal lived in a transitional period, advocating for unity among Muslims and the revival of Islamic thought. However, the intellectual stagnation and incompetent governance in Muslim societies hindered the realization of their visions. While Iqbal did not witness the full fruition of his aspirations, his ideas laid the foundation for Pakistan and inspired subsequent Islamic movements. His enduring influence underscores the transformative power of his thoughts in shaping modern Islamic identity. Biography and scientific and cultural contributions of Allama Muhammad Iqbal. From 1905 to 1906, significant milestones marked Iqbal's journey. On March 31st, Iqbal's assistant professorship was renewed. He began teaching philosophy with a monthly salary of 250 rupees and continued until he departed for Europe. His poignant poem, Nala-e-Firak, Lament of Separation, was published in the esteemed magazine Makhzan, marking a significant milestone in his literary journey. In August, he visited his brother Atta Muhammad in Abbottabad and delivered a lecture that resonated with his deep-rooted cultural and national identity. By October, this lecture was published in Makhzan. Iqbal's scholarly journey began with the publication of his first work, Ilm-ul-Iqtisad, The Science of Economics, a testament to his academic prowess and dedication in Lahore. In 1905, on February 17th, renowned Urdu poet Dag Delvi, Iqbal's teacher, passed away. In his honor, Iqbal composed an elegy of 27 couplets. On September 1st, Iqbal left for Europe to continue his education, taking a 3-year unpaid leave from government college. The following day, he reached Delhi, visited the tomb of Khwaja Nizamuddin Awliya, and composed the Masnavi Iltija-e-Musafir, Traveler's Supplication, in 36 verses. By October 1st, he enrolled at Trinity College, Cambridge, and on November 6th, he was admitted to Lincoln's Inn for legal studies. In 1906, on March 7th, he wrote an essay on moral philosophy for a scholarship. Residing in Cambridge, he composed poetry alongside his studies. He inquired Indian intellectuals about various issues. His responses were published in Zamana, a magazine in Kanpur. In 1907, on April 1st, Iqbal met Atiya Fizi in London during a ceremony. By June 13th, he graduated from Cambridge with a bachelor's degree, and on November 4th, he was admitted to the University of Munich, Germany, for a doctorate. His dissertation, The Development of Metaphysics in Persia, earned him a PhD in 1908. When his mentor, Thomas Arnold, took a 6-month leave to Egypt, Iqbal was appointed as his substitute to teach Arabic. His doctoral dissertation, The Development of Metaphysics in Persia, was published. On January 1st, he qualified as a barrister at Lincoln's Inn. By July 27th, he returned to Lahore and received a warm welcome. In August, he visited Sialkot, his birthplace, where he was enthusiastically received. He resumed work as a lawyer in private courts, and on October 30th, he officially received his law license. In 1909, on February 6th, Iqbal was appointed Secretary General of the Kashmiri Muslim Association. By February 24th, he was elected as a member of the Executive Committee of the Anjuman-e-Himayat-e-Islam for 3 years. In 1910, on February 2nd, he became a member of the General Assembly of the Anjuman-e-Himayat-e-Islam. He married Sardar Begum, his second wife, and on March 2nd, he was appointed research assistant at Punjab University. By July 26th, he was chosen as secretary of the College Council of the Anjuman-e-Himayat-e-Islam. In 1912, on February 1st, Iqbal delivered a public speech at Mochi Gate, Lahore. He supported a bill for compulsory education in British India by holding a session in Lahore under his presidency. He co-authored a history textbook on India with Lala Ram Prasad, a history professor at Government College. In 1914, on January 18th, Iqbal wrote to Maulana Ghulam Qadir Garmi, expressing his preference for composing poetry in Persian over Urdu. By September 12th, he published his Persian work, Asrar-e-Khudi, Secrets of the Self. On November 9th, his mother, Imam Bibi, passed away. Iqbal composed a heartfelt elegy, which included the widely quoted verse, "May the heavens sprinkle dew on your grave. May the verdure grow to guard your resting place." On November 17th, his first daughter, Miraj Bano, passed away. From 1917 to 1920, Iqbal's influence continued to grow. In July 1917, he wrote an article titled, Life of the Nation for Makhzan. In 1918, he published the Persian collection Rumus-e-Bekhudi, Secrets of Selflessness. In 1919, he became president of Oriental College. By 1920, his work Asrar-e-Khudi was translated into English by Reynold A. Nicholson and published by Macmillan. In 1922, Iqbal was knighted by the British government and awarded the title Sir for his contributions to literature and philosophy. He published Payam-e-Mashriq, The Message of the East, a collection of Persian poems inspired by Goethe's Westostlicher Divan. In 1923, Iqbal delivered numerous lectures addressing Muslims' spiritual, cultural, and political challenges in British India. Bang-e-Dra, The Call of the Marching Bell, a collection of Urdu poetry, was published. It included his earlier poems and later works reflecting his philosophical and nationalist outlook. In 1926, Iqbal entered politics by being elected to the Punjab Legislative Council. He advocated for the educational and economic advancement of Muslims in India. In 1927, he delivered his famous lectures on the reconstruction of religious thought in Islam. These lectures would later be compiled into the book, The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam. In 1930, Iqbal presided over the All India Muslim League's annual session in Allahabad. During this session, he delivered the historic Allahabad Address, articulating the concept of a separate homeland for Muslims northwest of British India. This laid the intellectual foundation for the creation of Pakistan. In 1932, Iqbal participated in the Second Round Table Conference in London, representing the Muslims of British India. He met leaders and intellectuals across Europe, including Mussolini, with whom he discussed political and social philosophy. In 1934, due to declining health, Iqbal retired from active politics, but continued writing and advising political leaders. In 1935, Iqbal published Bal-e-Jibril, Gabriel's Wing. one of his most celebrated Persian and Urdu poetry collections. In 1936, Iqbal began working closely with Muhammad Ali Jinnah, urging him to take up the cause of Muslims in British India. In 1938, on April 21st, Allama Muhammad Iqbal passed away in Lahore after a prolonged illness. He was buried near the Badshahi Mosque, where his tomb remains a place of reverence and admiration, a testament to the respect he commands, even in death. Known as the spiritual father of Pakistan, Iqbal's ideas profoundly influenced the movement to create Pakistan, underscoring his work's enduring impact. His works, including Zarbi Kalim, Javidnama, and Armagan-e-Hijaz, remain integral to Urdu and Persian literature. Iqbal Day, observed annually on November 9th, is a testament to the enduring relevance of his birth and his contributions to philosophy, poetry, and politics. Key events in Allama Iqbal's life: 1921, 1937. In 1921, Iqbal visited Kashmir for the first time with Maulvi Ahmad Din and his clerk Tahiruddin for a court case. They stayed for 2 weeks. In 1922, on July 31st, Iqbal resigned as Secretary General of the Anjuman-e-Himayat-e-Islam. By October 14th, he became a member of the General Council of the Anjuman-e-Himayat-e-Islam. In 1923, Iqbal was knighted with the title Sir by the British government, a significant recognition of his contributions and influence. On January 17th, a grand ceremony in Lahore honored him for his knighthood, recognizing his literary and intellectual contributions. This title, bestowed by the British government, brought Iqbal into the limelight and further elevated his status as a poet-philosopher. On May 1st, he published Payam-e-Mashriq, a collection of his philosophical and poetic thoughts. The combined Asrar-e-Khudi and Rumuz-e-Bekhudi were also published under the title Asrar-o-Rumuz, a significant work that delves into the mysteries of the self and the universe. In 1924, in March, the second edition of Payam-e-Mashriq was published. By September, the first edition of his Urdu poetry collection, Bang-e-Dra, was published. On October 21st, his wife, Mukhtar Begum, passed away in Ludhiana. He was appointed to the Executive Council of Punjab University. In 1925, Iqbal delivered a lecture on Islam and Ijtihad at Islamia College, Lahore. He also recited the poetry of Turkish poet Ziya Gökalp. In 1926, on December 6th, Iqbal was elected to the Punjab Legislative Council. By September, the second edition of Bang-e-Dra was published. In 1927, on March 10th, Iqbal spoke about the education budget in the Punjab Legislative Council. On April 16th, he delivered a lecture in English on the spirit of Islamic culture. He also published Zabur-e-Ajam. In 1928, Iqbal spoke against unjust taxation methods in the Punjab Council and delivered a lecture on the philosophy of Islam. In 1929, he participated in the All India Muslim Educational Conference in Madrasa. He visited several Indian cities, including Delhi, Bangalore and Hyderabad, where he received warm receptions. His teacher, Maulvi Mir Hassan, passed away in Sialkot. In 1930, Iqbal delivered the historic Allahabad Address, advocating for a separate Muslim state. The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam was published, comprising 6 of his lectures. In 1931, he participated in the Second Round Table Conference in London. He traveled to Italy and met Mussolini. He also visited Palestine and participated in the Islamic Conference. In 1932, in February, he published Javidnama. He chaired the All India Muslim Educational Conference in Lahore. In 1933, Iqbal traveled to Afghanistan at the invitation of King Muhammad Nadir Shah. He delivered lectures in Spain and Italy. In 1934, his health began to decline, and he suffered from throat illness and later arthritis. Punjab University awarded him an honorary doctorate. In 1935, Iqbal published Bale-Jibril and began constructing his residence, Javid Manzil. In May, his wife, Sardar Begum, passed away. In 1936, he met Muhammad Ali Jinnah in Lahore. Iqbal became the president of the All India Muslim League and published Zarbi Kalim. In 1937, Iqbal published the Persian poem Pashche Bayad Kard-i Aqwam-e-Shaq. His health worsened due to cataracts and gout. This timeline highlights the intellectual, political, and literary contributions of Allama Iqbal during a critical period of his life. Timeline of Allama Iqbal, 1938. On December 13, 1937, Allama Iqbal was awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of Allahabad on its 50th anniversary. On March 1, 1938, Iqbal received another honorary doctorate from Osmania University in Hyderabad, Deccan. On April 21, 1938, at 5:15 a.m., Iqbal passed away at his residence in Lahore. Around 20,000 people attended his funeral prayer at Islamia College, led by Maulana Ghulam Murshid at Badshahi Mosque. His burial ceremony took place that night. In November 1938, the final collection of his poetry, Armagan-e-Hijaz, Gift of the Hijaz, was published posthumously. Bibliography of works by and about Allama Iqbal. Original works in Persian and Urdu include Asrar-o-Rumuz, a collection of Asrar-i-Khudi, Secrets of the Self, and Rumuz-e-Bekhudi, Mysteries of Selflessness, Payam-e-Mashriq, Message of the East, a response to Goethe's West Eastern Divan Bangi-Dra, Call of the Caravan Bell. A collection of Urdu poetry, Zabur-e-Ajam, Persian Psalms, Bali Jibril, Gabriel's Wing, one of Iqbal's finest collections of Urdu poetry, Zab-e-Kalim, The Rod of Moses. A critique of modern materialism, Javid-Nama, Book of Eternity. An allegorical poetic masterpiece in Persian, Armagan-e-Hijaz, Gift of the Hijaz. A mix of Urdu and Persian poetry, Pasche Bayad Kard, Ayaquam-e-Shark, What Should Then Be Done, O People of the East. Translations and commentaries include The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, translated into Persian, Arabic, and various languages. Sayar-e-Falsafa dar Iran, The Development of Philosophy in Iran. Also translated as Sayar-e-Hikmat dar Iran, Payam-e-Mashriq and Bangi-Dra, translated into Arabic, English, and other languages. Jawid-Nama, translated into Arabic and annotated Zab-e-Kalim, translated and annotated in Persian and Urdu editions. Books on Iqbal's philosophy and life include Ahya-e-Fikr-e-Dini Dar Islam, Revival of Religious Thought in Islam, translated by Ahmad Aram Sukanraniha wa Makalat-e-Iqbal, Collection of Speeches and Letters, Hakikat wa Hayrat, a study of Iqbal's thoughts in light of Bergson's philosophy, Sirat-e-Falsafi Dar Iran, translated by various scholars, focusing on Iqbal's philosophical contributions, Sher-e-Mashriq analyses and collections of Iqbal's poetry.